Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my God the Father t-shirt on, I have my Bible the Epic miniseries right next to me, and as you can see from the frame around me, we are back taking down another atheist. This is Emma Thorne. And it's been a little bit since I did this, so I went back and kind of watched a little bit of the video just to kind of regain the context. And I found my master list of fallacies. Basically, what I've noticed about logical fallacies, and this was something that I was unprepared for because I was kind of going into this blind. I didn't really sit down and watch this video because I wanted to just kind of talk about it as it happened. And I went back and I was kind of searching around. I was like, oh, there it is. I had printed this off. This is from a college. I'm not sure exactly which college I got this from. I don't think it actually says. But basically, this is the University of Texas, El Paso. This is UTEP. And this is Owen M. Williamson, Education Building 211E. And then it gives a phone number and stuff like that. This is, I guess, a master list of fallacies that he came up with for a class called UNIV 1301 University Seminar, a short course in intellectual self-defense. Now, one of the things that I've noticed about logical fallacies when it comes to atheists, okay, beforehand, there was only a set number of logical fallacies. Things like straw man, ad hominem, the fallacy, which is where you create a fallacy to, basically try to cover your ineffectual nature. And what I have noticed is that since Christians started getting back into debating with atheists about the origin of the universe, evolution, all of that, I have noticed, and I mean I have noticed, that so many people have gone out to create fallacies, have gone out of their way to create fallacies. Fallacies that don't actually exist. Because what they want to do, and this is why it's called the fallacy, is because they're trying to not engage. Number one, they're trying not to engage intellectually, and number two, they're trying to say, well, you're just committing this fallacy. And what does that typically do to a Christian? Shuts them up. Because we go, oh, well, if I committed a logical fallacy, well, I didn't mean to. You didn't commit a fallacy. Because there's only a certain number of fallacies. And on the next episode of this, I will show you the actual fallacies. I only have this here because this actually talks about Hoyle's fallacy, which is what she's going to talk about here. We kind of touched on this a little bit at the end of last episode, okay? And so I decided I was going to go back a little bit, and she's going to kind of talk about this thing. And what it is she's going to kind of talk about, like, this airplane creating a tornado going through a junkyard that's creating stuff. Because this is part of the, well, let's just say this is actually what they believe. They're not going to say that this is what they believe, but this is essentially what they believe. We will talk about this. Okay, let her speak, and then we'll get into this.
Or Hoyle's fallacy. Here's the thing about Sir Fred Hoyle and this fallacy, this idea. It was directly opposed to abiogenesis, yes, which is the idea that there was a transition from non-living to living entities on planet Earth through complex evolutionary processes. That's a very, very, very basic explanation because I am not a scientist. So Hoyle did not believe in abiogenesis. He believed in, let me find the word for it because I can't remember, panspermia. Panspermia is the idea that life, microbiotic life, exists in space dust. They can survive the effects of space and can be carried on meteorites or whatever. Essentially, it takes the problem of the origin of life and just puts it elsewhere. It doesn't actually answer the question. It more says, well, life can't have originated on Earth. It probably came from space where something else happened to make it start. It's kind of silly, and it contradicts a lot of the demonstrated effects of evolutionary theory. The point...
Okay, so let's stop it there. Essentially, what Hoyle believes in is intelligent design. That life was engineered somewhere and then was carried here by something. Be it rocks, space dust, aliens, whatever. Okay? That's what intelligent design proposes. Okay? Intelligent design does not mean... Let me repeat that. Intelligent design does not mean strict creationism. Okay? And basically now what she's saying is she's saying, because she's an atheist that believes in strict evolution, oh, that's just taking the problem of abiogenesis and putting it off over here. Okay? Like it happens somewhere else. No, it's intelligent design, is basically what he's saying. Okay? And panspermia, all panspermia means is seeded life from elsewhere. That's all panspermia means. Okay? So, here's what Hoyle's fallacy actually is. A fallacy of logos falsely assuming that a possible event of low, even vanishingly low probability can never have happened and or would never happen in real life. E.g., the probability of something as complex as human DNA emerging by purely random evolution in the time the Earth has existed is so negligible that it is, for all practical purposes, impossible and must have required divine intervention. Or the chance of causal Saturday night poker player being dealt 4 aces off an honest shuffled deck is so infinitesimal that it would never occur even once in a normal lifetime. That proves you cheated. See also argument from incredulity. An obverse of Hoyle's fallacy is you can't win if you don't play. Also, someone's going to win and it might as well be you. A common and cruel contemporary fallacy used to persuade vulnerable audiences, particularly the poor, mathematically illiterate, and gambling addicts, to throw their money away on lotteries, horse races, casinos, and other long-shot gambling schemes. Okay? So, in a sense, and see, this is the problem with these logical fallacies, is that they automatically run to the whole divine intervention thing, which is not what intelligent design does. Intelligent design just says there is somebody out there that is smarter than us, okay, that created life, okay, and then seeded it on other worlds. Doesn't have to be God, okay? I mean, if you've seen nope, wrong one. All the way over. If you've seen this movie, Knowing, okay, that movie basically talks about, like, God is essentially just a bunch of aliens, and Noah's Ark was just saving, like, animals and children from a disaster and putting them on a separate world. And that became the myth of Noah's Ark. Because the boy and the girl in the movie, they carry with them, a couple of animals, and they get seeded on a new world because the Earth is dying. And like some woman predicted it because she had all these different things because she was receiving like the future events from everything. But anyway, that's getting a little off topic. So you'll notice that they don't have in Hoyle's fallacy, they don't have the obverse outside of the part where it's, oh, see, you cheated at cards. Oh, you can't win if you can't win if you don't play. You'll notice that they don't have an obverse to Hoyle's. That the opposite is true also. That how could something so mathematically, because it's like so many people, and I would almost call this the "it only has to happen once" fallacy. And I don't even think that's in this, because yeah, they don't even have one like that. But it's the idea that the evolutionist will say, well, but it only had to happen once. See, all the stuff just had to happen once, and then from there, see, it just multiplied and multiplied and multiplied. No, that's not how it works, man. Because you have to have the right combinations of chemicals in the right orders multiple times. Again, check out this movie, Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. Okay? It explains it. It really does. A lot of people don't realize that, but it explains it. It basically talks about how it's not just, oh, it happened once, see? Pfft, no. It has to happen over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? Because you can't just have one protein, there's one protein, okay, cool, we have life. One protein does not make life. Because you're made of proteins. Her, she's made of proteins. Me, I'm made of proteins. I'm made of trillions upon trillions upon trillions of proteins. Every single hair on my body is made of thousands of proteins. Hundreds of thousands of proteins. Okay? Your eyes are made of hundreds, quadrillions of proteins. You have so many proteins in your body. So it can't have happened just one protein molecule and bam, we have life. It has to happen over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to coin the phrase either "it only had to happen once" fallacy or "and as if by magic" fallacy. If you guys want to play this fallacy game. Okay? Because you heard what she said. Oh, over complexities and all this, over complex evolutionary processes. Yeah. Because you don't have an explanation for how. All you have is bones and dirt and lines on paper and models that are so inaccurate that they don't do anything. Literally. They don't prove anything. Because you can't back them up with any observable science. It is all theory and conjecture. They even went out of their way to redefine the word theory so that they could try to say, see, our theory is fact. That's not how science works. Gravity is a law. Evolution is a theory, an unproven and unprovable theory. Just like intelligent design, just like creationism, evolution is an unproven and unprovable theory. And you don't have any evidence.
Sir Fred Hoyle was an atheist. He was not arguing for a creationist approach here. He was arguing against abiogenesis.
Yeah, tell that to this dude then. Tell that to this guy, okay? Owen Williamson, okay? Who wrote this master list of stupid-ass fallacies. Because he's saying it had to have been divine intervention in Hoyle's theory, in Hoyle's fallacy. You guys can't even get your own fucking people on your side. It's pathetic. It is literally pathetic that you guys can't get together and say, whoa, wait a minute. Hoyle's fallacy is not about just strict divine intervention. It's about intelligent design. It's about saying that there's some other process out there other than evolution. Okay? And that the chances of evolution happening are so remote that it had to have been intelligently designed in some way. That's what Hoyle's fallacy, if you want to call it that, is about. It's more like Hoyle's theory about intelligent design.
He was an astronomer who loved space, and he thought, wouldn't it be cool if life came from space dust? He did not think that life came from God. He did...
Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson believes in that. In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson has said on multiple occasions, we are all just stardust. He's right along there with Hoyle, okay? Now, whether or not he believes in intelligent design, that's another debate entirely, but he is right there with him in believing that we are stardust.
Not believe in creationism, he did not believe in God at all. He was an atheist. So to have his fallacy, which is already contradictory to mainstream science, and again, the demonstrated effects of evolution... But...
Is it, though? Is it? Because, I mean, honestly, all I see is a bunch of bones that have been perpetrated as hoaxes on an unsuspecting public for years. That's it. And it's been perpetrated to the point where people are believing in it and creating these ideas in their head of, oh, it had to have evolved. To the point where now there are Christians out there that are trying to read evolution into Genesis chapter 1. I mean, it's really pathetic that the people are doing that. And the thing is, okay, you don't have any evidence to the contrary. You have layers with no erosion marks, none, that you claim are millions, if not billions of years old, and you want us to believe, however idiotically, that that's how things happened. Because you've drawn lines on paper and you teach it as if it's gospel. You teach it as if it's the only explanation for how life got here. No intelligent design, no creationism, no any other theory. It's just evolution or nothing. You know what we call that? A cult.
Blah, blah, presented as an argument for biblical creationism, which is not even what he was proposing, is just mind-blowingly idiotic. I'm sorry, ACE, education system, whoever is responsible for the textbooks. This feels like they've looked up a famous quote. You know, they've heard the junkyard tornado, and they've been like, that's brilliant, I'll write that down, that makes it sound... It's just oh, how could it be possible?
Then Emma, maybe you should contact this Owen Williamson at UTEP, okay? And if you want, leave a comment. I'll drop you his number, okay? You leave a comment with an email drop box, okay? And I'll drop you all of his stuff, all of his contact information. You can contact him, and you can tell him that Hoyle's fallacy is about strict intelligent design and not creationism. Because literally in here, he literally says, the probability of something so complex as human DNA emerging purely by random evolution in the time the Earth has existed is so negligible that it is, for all practical purposes, impossible and must have required divine intervention, i.e. a God. That's what divine intervention means. Go look it up. It means the intervention of a God. That's literally what this guy is teaching. And you wonder why ACE, they go out and they look at this kind of fucking bullshit and they go, oh, well, then maybe we should use Hoyle's fallacy to back up our assertions. Are you f***ing stupid? Like I said, you guys can't even get on the same damn page. It's mind-blowingly idiotic how stupid atheists truly are. It really is. You people have no clue what... This hand doesn't know what this hand is doing. It is so blindingly obvious to anyone who has 2 brain cells and the will to see it. Because when you start looking into it, you guys are so far apart on so many things, you don't even know what... Half of you don't even know what your own theory teaches. Here you are, Emma, talking about how, Hoyle was talking about panspermia and how all of these rocks and space dust, could bring life and seed it on Earth. Yet that's exactly what the story of Earth talks about. That's exactly what textbooks talk about. That's exactly what scientists have been saying in papers for years. You owe your life to rock. That's why Kent Hovind says to you, atheists, including you, Emma, you believe you came from a rock. Because where else would the minerals have come from to create life as you know it, from abiogenesis to biogenesis? Life from non-living things. Come on. Where is it? Where did it come from? I have yet to have a single person answer that whenever I push them on it. And I say, that's because you know that if you actually Google it, if you actually start looking into the origin of life, guess what you're gonna find? That yes, all scientists of science, trademark, believe you came from rocks. And it's in all your textbooks. And yet, you know how idiotic that sounds. And yet, you don't want to believe that you came from a God who loves you and cares for you. You would rather throw that out the window, that he came to save you from your sins, and that he came to give you a purpose. You would rather throw that out the window because you like your sin. It's your choice. It's always been your choice. But go for it. I mean, honestly, go for it.
The chances are really slim, without actually understanding the scientist making the argument, or what his actual position was, or what he was arguing in favour of. That's so dumb. And it
You're assuming that they didn't know. That's what's so dumb. Is you're assuming they didn't know. You're assuming that somebody at the office was sitting there and just kind of clicking around one day and saw a plane or read something somewhere about this plane tornado. Oh, airplane tornado, that sounds cool. Let's write that down and put it in our textbooks. They put it in there for a reason. They're basically agreeing with Sir Fred Hoyle about intelligent design, that there couldn't have been any other explanation for it, because it is so mathematically impossible that if you ever read the book in 6 days and you see the number of zeros that the mathematician came up with in that book, you will come to the same conclusion that he came to. There is no possible way it ever could have happened, because it couldn't have happened once. Because that, you take that, and then it has to happen again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Like hundreds of thousands of times to create proteins, to create life. And that's just to create a bacteria. That's not even to create complex multicellular organisms that we are. And you want me to believe that it was just, every single thing just happened. Bullshit. Emma, you're deluding yourself. And atheists out there that are watching this, you're deluding yourself. If you think that that's what happened, that's why they're including this in there, is because they're saying, essentially, that is essentially what happened, is the same thing as a plane flying through a junkyard creating a tornado in its wake, and that tornado brings about a house. Go study a cell, a single cell, and how it works. Not in high school biology. Okay? Go study how a cell works. Because according to this movie, when Ben Stein walked in and talked with actual biologists about the cell, he goes, if Darwin thought that that a cell was like, say, a Buick, what is it now? And they're like, it's more complex than the space shuttle. And that was one fucking complex machine we sent into space for so many years. Like, extremely complex machine we sent into space for so many years. And your cell, every cell in your body is more complex than that machine. Think about that. You want to believe that it happened by random chance in a puddle of goo, you're welcome to believe that. But that is idiotic. That was the essence of using the picture, the illustration of the plane flying through the junkyard, creating the tornado, which creates something. We would all still be puddles of goo right now if evolution were even remotely possible, because there isn't enough time in the universe.
Terrifies me that that's part of a scientific textbook aimed at young people in education. What else does it say?
It says a lot. It talks about actual science, stuff you can study, observe, test, demonstrate, measure. That's what science actually is. What have they actually done to prove evolution besides drawing lines on paper and looking at bones and going, oh, see, you have two bones in your forearm called the radius and the ulna. Ho ho ho! Look at that, a whale has the same two bones. Oh, look at that, a dog has the same two bones. We all must be connected. Let's draw lines between them. That's all your side is saying. That's all they've ever done. Lines on paper, that's it. You can't prove that it ever did anything. But I'm guessing that they changed the standards.
Like, it's deeply worrying. It's deeply fucking worrying. Here's another excerpt from a textbook. To explain the existence of the universe, there must have been a power that brought the heavens and earth into being. Must there? A power that created space, matter, and time. So that's already... Okay, now listen, I'm a huge nerd.
Okay, so essentially, I will read this whole thing, okay? Because part of it's behind me. To explain the existence of the universe, there must have been a power that brought the heavens and earth into being. A power that created space, matter, and time. A power that created Earth with everything necessary to support life, and a power that created the first man and animals and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, because it goes actually down below the frame. So, if there wasn't a creative agent known as God, then how did the Earth get here? How did the universe get here? They want you to believe that it came out of nothing. That it came out of absolutely nothing. That nothing created everything, which violates the first law of thermodynamics, of physics. It violates their own laws of the universe. Nothing created everything. The first law of thermodynamics is matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transformed. So where did the universe come from then? Time, space, matter. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's right there. That's what they're talking about. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's time in the beginning. God created the heavens. There's space. And the earth. Matter. Doesn't get any clearer than that. And the best your side could come up with was there was some singularity. The original Big Bang Theory was the universe collapses in on itself and then re-explodes, and then collapses in on itself and re-explodes. And when people went, you cannot collapse that much matter and energy into one dot, then Alan Guth came up with his idea of, oh, well then there was nothing, and then there was the singularity, and then from that came everything else. That's the current theory of the Big Bang, is that nothing created everything. According to your side. And according to me, and that's not a straw man. You can look that up. That's Alan Guth.
Not a scientist. My scientific background is very, very minimal. I do like, for some reason, I've been really interested in theories on time, specifically quantum gravity and how those things relate. And I am very aware how easy it is to misunderstand what space and time are, particularly what space is. And the idea that space and matter are separate things is very old school in terms of scientific understanding. Space itself is more of a fabric. It's made of waves and matter like everything else. It's not a separate thing. It's not a space. Maybe the problem is the word. Maybe the word and its other connotations is what gives us this difficulty in understanding, but it's not a space to contain things. It is a thing that is part of all the other things that make up the universe.
No one ever said it was. Or wasn't. Space was just the absence of matter as we understand it. Matter as in Earth, planets, gases, that kind of stuff. Metals, basically anything on the periodic table. The absence of that is space, because that's energy. Like the sun gives off energy. That energy moves through the void between our planet and its surface. And that energy moves and hits our planet. Okay? It's moving through that void, through that vacuum we call space. So, does space contain stuff? Yes. In fact, since the early days of radio and television, we've been sending electromagnetic waves out into the ether. We don't know if anything's received them, but we know that the signals are still out there. We've been able to calculate that there are gravitational waves We've been able to detect that there are various different things out there. So do we understand now that space is not just the absence of stuff? Yes. Because we understand that what we call space, the infinite blackness of the void that we call space, is made up of a complex web of energies and dark matter. Can we prove dark matter? No. But we assume that there's something out there holding everything together. What is that something? I would argue it's God. Okay? And the reason why I argue that it's God is because He is the image of the invisible, God the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that everything might have the supremacy. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether all things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. Jesus Christ. That's Colossians 1, 15 through 18. That is Christ. All the visible and invisible are held together by him. Why do you think quantum things can happen? In fact, quantum theory probably makes more sense if you understand that God is an infinite being that exists outside of our universe, and that he's holding our universe together. How is he holding that universe together? Quantum theories start to make a lot more sense. But you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. But you have to explain other things that you're not willing to explain or not able to explain. And some people would say, whoa, not yet. Not ever. Because I don't think there will ever be a point at which you will be able to see life form in a warm little pond somewhere on any planet, anywhere in the universe. In fact, the James Webb Telescope now is shooting holes in how old the universe is. Because they're looking at the cosmic microwave background radiation and saying, well, we know the decay rate of this type of radiation, and that type of radiation is similar, so we think it's this many, this 13.6 billion years old or whatever, and so we think it's that. And then they take pictures with the JWST and they go, well, shit. Those galaxies are older and smoother and rounder than, they should be. Now what?
That to me, that just demonstrates that the author of this book is not in any way keeping up to date with scientific understanding, scientific theory. They're not updating these books based on the latest science in any way.
I would argue that for a child in high school, you probably don't need to. You probably don't need to talk about space anything other than it is just a void through which stuff travels. That's it. They don't need to know the rest of it at that point. They'll learn it when they get to college. They'll learn it when they talk to other people. They'll learn it if they watch videos like this. But they don't need to know that if they're like in middle school or high school. Okay? Because you're talking about things that are kind of beyond that ken. Okay? Because I've been in high schools as a parapro, and they didn't talk at all in any earth science class about what space is, or, you know, how it's anything like that. Okay? And, you know, they talk about, like, biology. They talk about evolution in a very, very basic way. That's why I know that most of you pop atheists out there have no idea what you're talking about, because if I know more about your evolution theory than you do, that means you didn't learn what was in your textbooks, and you haven't transferred that knowledge over to now. And you want to complain that we're ignorant? And that we're not keeping up with the latest scientific stuff? Look in the mirror. That is extremely hypocritical.
Because I would hope that the author of a scientific textbook made for education would know more about the latest science than I do, because I know virtually nothing. Evidently, that is not the case. A power that created Earth with everything necessary to support life, and a power that created the first man and woman, the animals, the plants, and all life. Not only must there be a power, but that power must be an eternal living being. Citation needed?
Here's your citation, Emma. It's right here. This book has more archaeological, anthropological evidence than your theory ever will. Because so many people have tried to debunk it and disprove it, and they end up only proving that it's actually true. In fact, you can go to Washington, D.C., and you can go visit the Museum of the Bible, and you can see all of the archaeological evidence that backs up the stories that are in the Bible. Okay? Primary sources from places that conquered the Holy Land back in the mid-BCs, okay? Early to mid-BCs, that absolutely back up a lot of the stories. There's cylinders from Babylon. There's parchments from all over. And you can see the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay, that are some of the earliest manuscripts we have of the Old Testament that perfectly translate over to what we have in Hebrew manuscripts now. Like, there's no difference, there's no variant in it. So when you stand there and go, citation needed? Here's your citation. It's right here. Yet, you want to be willingly ignorant of all that. And that's fine. You're welcome to be willingly ignorant of all that. Okay? Because when you watch the debate that Kent Hovind did with the three professors from Embry-Riddle University, okay, and you see them talking about this stuff and doing this stuff, it literally, that one guy sat there and was like, one of the professors sat there and was like, oh, well, you know, my father told me never to trust anything without a good bibliography in it, and then he handed me a Bible, and I looked and I looked and I looked, and I couldn't find a bibliography. So, what does a bibliography have to do with anything? All a bibliography does is it just shows that you know how to research. The Bible doesn't need a bibliography because it has the ultimate author. The archaeological and anthropological evidence speaks for itself. That's the bibliography. Okay? That we can look back through history and we can see that the history that this book shows, okay, that this book tells, actually happened. The way that it happened. And it's so funny to me that I tell atheists that the Israelites actually use the Tanakh as their actual history book. I learned that in a philosophy religious studies class. They actually do. They read the Bible. Why? Because it's their history book. It doesn't just contain the first 5 books of Moses, which is their law and their prophets, or their law, but it also contains their history. That's literally what the freaking acronym is. Tanakh. The Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. It's the law, the history, and the prophets. What do you want? It's called the history for a reason. Because it's the history of the people that live in Israel. Why would they not use this book as their history book? Up to a certain point. Then from there they take over and they use other history books and stuff like that. But they study this. The Old Testament at least. Okay? They study it. Extensively they do. Okay? These people, they are so far out there because they don't want to believe the Bible. They just want to believe that it's some fairy tale book like Lord of the Rings. But it's not. Now, you want a good fairy tale book, go read the Book of Mormon. That's an excellent fairy tale book. Okay? Joseph Smith did a good job of plagiarizing a lot of it out of the Bible and then creating a lot on his own and throwing it in there. Okay? But I can tell you that this book is not a work of fiction. There is too much behind it. We have too many primary sources backing this up. That's why I said it has archaeological and anthropological evidence, because we have primary sources that are from locations, okay, that are described in detail in this book that actually back up the stories that are in it. Okay? And so, you, Emma, I understand that you have issues with religion because of some of the things that have happened to you in the past. I get that. A lot of people do. But that's no reason to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And that's the problem with atheists. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. They are willingly ignorant of all of the mountains of evidence for the Bible because they know that if they try to include that, it destroys their whole narrative. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this series so far. I'm going to continue on with this, and until I'm done, we're about halfway through it, a little over halfway through it, and so we'll probably be done in another couple of sessions. Like I said, I've been trying to let her speak a little bit more before I come in and try to speak, but, you know, have to dismantle a lot of this because there's a lot of BS that's in there. So anyway, I'm going to be, you know, kind of continuing on. I've had some personal things in my life this last week, so it's been kind of hectic to try to film, but I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible. And so, you know, once I get done with that, then I'll go back and do some of the other videos that I've been kind of neglecting. So, all right, as we say, we will see you on the next one.